I think Bitcoin could be ready for a major potential dump, and this is how you can prepare yourself. What we can see is that Bitcoin is still range bound over here, guys, and I still strongly do believe that this is a reaccumulation range before new all-time highs. But the fact that this is a reaccumulation range, whether you draw this range like this or whether you draw this range like this, it's quite irrelevant. The fact that it's a reaccumulation range can be seen by the fact, in my opinion, that while we are forming this range, that the volume in this range is dropping lower and lower and lower. And then look at the average volume. Obviously, don't look at a single spike like this. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we cannot get another drop beneath the range low before we are going to visit new all-time highs. Now, why am I cautiously bearish on Bitcoin is due to the fact that we have a massive wick to the downside over here on the daily. And also, if we switch to the weekly time frame right over here, we can see that we have an even bigger wick to the downside over here. Now, as I have touched you guys, these wicks, they tend to be a huge draw on liquidity. Why is that? It's due to the fact that a wick is indicating too fast of a price movement, which means that because price was moving too fast, smart money, the bigger players inside of this market that were waiting for their orders to get filled, they didn't get the opportunity, they didn't get the time to fill all of their orders before the price reversed. Because you have to realize that these orders are so big that it takes time for their orders to get filled. They don't get filled in a few seconds or in a few minutes. It often takes hours and sometimes even days for their orders to get filled. So if price moves too fast into those orders don't get triggered, which means that smart money, the bigger players in this market, they're going to push the price back to fill at least 50% of the wick before reversing the price towards the opposite side of the wick. Now we can see that we have two big wicks on the weekly and daily, which means that in my opinion the drawn liquidity currently is to the downside. Now also we have this range, right, where a lot of people are looking at this range low over here or at this range low over here. And what will happen is, if we get another push to the downside, many people will completely freak out, in my opinion. I think that fear, doubt and uncertainty will completely take over, that many people on a drop to the downside like this, where we are going to indeed fill that 50% wick, are going to freak out and sell and short all of their positions right here. What will happen is that sell and short pressure can also get absorbed by the market makers and bigger players in this market. So if people start selling and shorting, they can use that short and sell pressure to absorb it, to fill their bigger buy and long orders, right? Because if they want to buy, there needs to be someone selling to them in order for them to be able to buy, right? So that sell and short pressure will help to fill the buy and long orders of the market makers. So if we're going to get another drop like this, which I'm expecting to be, I'm expecting that to be quite bullish actually for the price of Bitcoin, because this, in my opinion, is where the liquidity pool was resting. Why? Due to this wick over here and this low, where there were many stops resting over here, and due to the fact that we had this huge imbalanced move over here that had to be recovered as well. Now we mitigated liquidity pool once, we mitigated the liquidity pool twice. What if we're going for a third tap over here, going to create 1, 2, 3 taps before we reclaim the range low, before we pump it to brand new all-time highs? That's currently my plan for Bitcoin. Now, how are we going to execute that? That means that for the week, I'm expecting some more downside, to be very honest, right? For the months to come, I'm expecting more upside. So long term, nothing has changed. Now, when I look at this move over here, I can see that we have some weekend liquidity resting above these highs over here, right? I think there's plenty of liquidity resting over here. Now, many people identify this move over here as a local sweep over here, a move to the downside that broke structure. But I always tell you guys, if moves like this occur during the weekend, you have to wonder if you can trust a move like this. I personally don't trust a move like this if it happens during the weekend. So what am I thinking over here is that there will be plenty of liquidity resting over here above this high, and there will be plenty of liquidity over here resting above this high. Now above these highs is where we are running into a major supply area right over here for the Bitcoin price. So what I think potentially makes sense, right, is to either get a fake out above these highs over here into that supply that I just marked out and start looking for shorts right here up on the right confirmation. So am I going to set limits? No. am I going to wait for the correct confirmation? And based off weakness, I'm going to short over here with my stop loss over here, targeting that 50% weak fill level. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Another thing that could happen is that we are actually going to sweep this high over here, which is the previous week high, and start looking for shorts from there. So get a fake out above this high, show weakness, and then target the 50% weak fill level. So what I'm thinking is to get a bit of an exit pump early this week. Start looking for shorts right there, either over here or slightly higher. Target the 50% weak fill level on the daily, target the 50% weak fill level on the weekly. That's where we are going to accumulate some more spot positions. That's where we are going to accumulate some more swing long positions upon the right confirmations. Because you have to realize that there's always the probability and the possibility of filling 100% of the week as well. While we are waiting for Bitcoin to get another breakdown below the range low, Ethereum is actually currently already trading beneath that range low of the reaccumulation range, which means that we're looking at potential accumulation, potential manipulation before potential expansion towards the upside, also towards brand new all-time highs for Ethereum. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reclaim the range low right now once more. It can also mean that we are going to consolidate over here for a longer period of time to accumulate and fill all of those long and buy orders before then reclaiming the range low and then pumping it towards new all-time highs. Now, this idea of a longer consolidation area beneath that range low is also in confluence with, once again, a 50% weak fill level over here on the daily time frame. If I'm going to take the EQ level of that 50% weak, we can see that over here we have the 50% weak fill level. Now, what is interesting about that 50% weak fill level, if I go to the 4-hourly time frame, is that we have liquidity resting right above the 50% weak fill level over here as well, with this very significant low. Now, why is there a lot of liquidity resting beneath this low? Because of this fake break of structure over here. Why is this a fake break of structure? Because the high that we break through over here did not bring us to a new low compared to this low that brought us to that high. It only brought us to a higher low, which means that the high over here becomes insignificant to break, and therefore this is not a valid break of structure. But after this move we start consolidating. So what happens is that people identify this as bullish consolidation after a valid break of structure, not realizing that it's actually a fake one. So what do? They start longing the price of Ethereum. What low will they use as their stop loss? They will use this low to cover their stop loss, because they think that this is the low that started this impulse that gave this valid break of structure. So they think that that's their invalidation, which means that there's lots of liquidity resting beneath this low. Now, the funny thing is that besides the fact that we have lots of liquidity resting beneath this low, right beneath that low on the daily, is also where we have the 50% weak fill level. And that's exactly what we want to see, right? A huge drawn liquidity to the downside inside of the potential manipulation phase. If I'm quickly going to remove this drawing over here, we can see that I'm simply going to mark out my accumulation right over here for Ethereum. Then I'm going to mark out my manipulation right over here for Ethereum before expansion towards brand new all-time highs. So does the fact that I'm expecting more downside in the short term change my view on the long term? No, it doesn't. I'm just expecting a bit of a longer consolidation phase over here. How are we going to execute the idea towards a drawn liquidity, which is resting beneath this low over here? We are currently trading inside of a local range, as we can see, right? A beautiful local range over here for the Ethereum price. If I'm going to apply the range like this, how are we going to execute this? If I go back to the 1-hourly time frame, we get a bit of a more detailed view on Ethereum. Is that also for Ethereum, guys, we have this weekend liquidity resting over here. But above the weekend liquidity is where we have this major imbalance for the Ethereum price. So how about we sweep that weekend liquidity into that imbalance, where we also have the range high area, and we start looking for shorts right over here, targeting that sells liquidity right over here. That's the plan right now for Ethereum. Don't blindly limit short Ethereum over here, guys. It is also probable that we are going to sweep this high over here that we put in last week, and that we are going to take out last week's high, just like I explained for Bitcoin. Take out last week's high, find short confirmation right there above last week's high, start looking for shorts over here, also targeting 50% of the weak fill level and the sales liquidity over here. So both for Bitcoin and for Ethereum, expecting but kind of hoping for a bit of an exit pump early this week. Form the weekly high right there, start looking for short confirmations right there, targeting 50% of the wick fill level to the downside, and that's where we are going to accumulate spot and swing long positions before targeting brand new all-time highs for both Bitcoin and for Ethereum.